بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نرحب بالجميع مجددا ونأمل أن الجميع استمتعوا بهذه الاستراحة القصيرة. نستأنف برنامجنا الآن أيها الحفل الكريم. يسرني دعوة الأستاذة أرادنا كوالا المدير التنفيذي لقطاع السياحة في نيوم لتقديم عرض عن دور نيوم في تحقيق رؤية 2030. I would like to invite Mrs. Aradna Kuala, who will speak about NEOM role in realizing Vision 2030. She's the Tourism Managing Director at NEOM. Please welcome the speaker.
Thank you, Khaled. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm supposed to be here talking about NEOM's critical role in fulfilling the Vision 2030, and I promise I will get to it. I might not stick to the script, but I will get to it. But before I do that, there are two key things that I'd love to speak about. First off, I would love to start by saying thank you. Khaled, wherever you are, Khaled and his extended team, thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And more importantly, thank you for your endless patience with my schedule, which kept changing by the minute. It's a great show that you've put together. We very much appreciate the work that you're doing in the VC space in the kingdom. So very, very well done to you again for putting this event together over the last 2 days. The second thing that I want to speak about is actually the startups, which is why we are all here. And I'm especially excited for all the startups in the room. I know it's not a lot of people, but can we have a show of hands, please? How many people, startups, entrepreneurs? Fantastic, thank you, sir. I, for the most of my adult life, have been a passionate advocate and vocal believer of the fact that entrepreneurship, of using entrepreneurship as an engine of change and catalyst in revitalizing, invigorating any economy, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is no different. Hence, I think it is especially heartening to see the role companies like RVC are playing today, because at the end of the day, if you're a startup, the fact is 3 out of the top 5 companies in the world probably receive their first external capital from a venture capitalist firm. So the role that companies like RVC and other VC firms play globally is very, very important. Now, when I speak of startups, at no point am I trying to undermine the role of big companies, older players, play in the economy. Obviously, they are very, very important, especially for a country like NEOM. We need a little bit of both. We have massive infrastructure projects, a lot of which will be done with bigger companies. But coming back to the startup point, I think the fact is larger corporations, older corporations by definition invest in incremental technology. And why is that? Because they need to mitigate their risk, and they need to make sure some kind of predictability exists in the returns that they get from their investments. Startups, on the other end, operate at a cutting edge of technology. If you look at anything that has been transformational, world-changing in the last many, many years, it has all been ideas which have originated from a startup. So, and obviously there is an appropriate and directly +1 correlation of risk to how startups operate, because the fact is the vast majority of startups fail. I know it's not a very positive thing to say in this environment, but the fact is that the success rates of startups is very, very low. But here's the thing. Even though the vast majority might fail, the ones that make it, the ones that win, are the ones that are responsible for changing the world fundamentally that we live in today. So, very, very happy to be here. And I know I'm acutely aware that I stand between you and lunch, and that is a lot of pressure. So I'm going to talk about the reason why I'm here, which is the land of the future, the land of tomorrow, the world of tomorrow, which is NEOM. Perhaps the best place to start is by talking about how NEOM was conceived and how it came about. I love it when in technology events, technology doesn't work. It's epic. Okay, we are there. So how was NEOM conceived, and what is the role that we are hoping NEOM is going to play in Vision 2030 going forward? For starters, we live in what is called a VUCA world. VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In other words, apart from being a trendy acronym, it's a way of saying it can be a really crazy world out there. Now, depending on who you speak to, you might either get very, very positive, optimistic feedback on how the world is going to evolve, or rather desperate and grim predictions on how things are going to change in the future. But either way, what we know and what we have seen is there are some fundamental things which are changing in the world, which is going to alter and completely transform the world we live in. Let's start with climate change. I was at Davos last week, and this was probably the single biggest discussion point, climate change. Climate change is real. What we are facing now is a real damage or real probability that we are causing irreversible damage to the environment we live in with everything that we are doing. Food security. As the world begins to urbanize, prosper, more and more, the demands placed on natural resources are increasing. And the fact is, we only have a finite amount of all of these natural resources. With the burgeoning middle-class population, what we're going to see is a demand on food rise by 30%, demand on energy rise by 40%, and water by 50%. And the fact is, unless we come up with solutions, all of these resources are finite in nature. Digitization. We live in a digital world today. I don't know if any of you are from the UK, which is where I am from, and we have a joke that we live in a world of technology today where the pizza gets to your door before the police. So we are all connected, we are all on the internet, and this is when we have 3 and 4G. At the end of 2019, perhaps in 2020, we're talking about introducing 5G as a technology which will overnight make internet available to 300 million people, and just that one thing is going to add $1 trillion to the economy. So digitization it's a trend which is irreversible. It's happening all around us. Health and wellness. The world demographics is shifting. There are parts of the world where we have a degrowing population, and there are parts of the world like the kingdom where we actually have a very healthy demographic pyramid, which is very promising, because what it says is you have a lot of young people below the age of 30 and 35, and that is a very positive outlook for the economy. Either way, if you look at health and fitness and how things are evolving in the healthcare space, what we have now is a situation where the medical efforts have improved so much in life that when I say now, there is probably cancer and a few other ailments which are the biggest cause of death and fatality, because everything else has been solved by medical science. And what is now increasingly visible is most people die, I guess, and going forward will die with mental ailments. I'm talking Alzheimer's, I'm talking dementia, I'm talking depression, anxiety, which are the new world illnesses which is going to be the biggest reasons for fatality. And of course, mobility. We live in a flat world. The world is flat. And how we travel and how we consume things, and as a result, the new inventions and innovations that are going to come into the market as a result of that is going to change going forward even more. Finally, the future of work or workplace revolution, and I always say this, the world is changing at such an accelerated pace. What was innovative 5 years ago is a basic hygiene factor today, and that is having repercussions on how people live, on how people entertain themselves, and how they study and imbibe knowledge. Now, if you, a lot of us got degrees and got into jobs, because that's how we did it. Today, if you look at 65% of kids who are in primary schools, there is data which suggests that all of them, or a high percentage of them, would likely end up working in jobs that do not exist as we speak today. So we're talking about a workplace revolution like never before. Now, all of these mega trends, what it leads up to is it shows us that the world we have around us as we speak clearly is not working. We have driven growth, but we've made the planet more hostile. We have urbanized, but we are more divided and we are less healthy. We've innovated, but we are perhaps more lonely and isolated. And all of this was the reason behind the inception of Neom, because we genuinely believe this is a unique moment in history to press the reboot button and start by ending the status quo. Go to Neom, which is a new way of life, which is a new way of learning, and it is the new future. It is the world of tomorrow. Can we have the video here, please?
The future has begun. Turning a blueprint into reality has begun. In just 1 year, we have screened and analyzed 1,600 cities to determine a world-class international governance framework. We've grown from a founding board's initial vision to an organization of over 300 visionaries and counting. We've assembled a global advisory board of leading industries from around the world. 16 economic sectors have already been defined, with sector heads appointed. To aid with planning and research, 26,500 square kilometers of Neom's diverse terrain has been meticulously surveyed and mapped to create a digital twin. Plans are already in action for 19 cities and towns, complete with Neom Bay and an environmental holiday destination. And with Neom's first airport completed, flights are already scheduled for the end of 2018. Neom is set to be a place like no other. A place where together we can unleash our imaginations, rewrite the rulebook, and create something truly extraordinary. The work has begun. The dream has begun. The future has begun. Neom. The future has begun. Humanity's next chapter has begun. Turning a blueprint into a reality has begun. We've begun laying the foundations for an entirely new way of living. New ways of working, of transportation, of farming, where humans can both sustain and enhance the natural environment. Creating a place where citizens are empowered to pioneer and realize their ideas. We've assembled some of the world's brightest minds to help us achieve our goal. The dream has begun. The work has begun. The future has begun. Neom.
It's funny, I am an expert on tourism and MD of tourism at Neom. I've traveled well over to 150 countries, and I can tell you, every time I still see these pictures, it's a sensory overload, because I can't imagine another destination which has the deserts, the coast, the mountains, and the islands all in one place. It is absolutely fantastic, and I say that as someone who's a specialist in this sector. But going back to the point, we have a standing joke in the office that, oh, actually, it's after all a very small project. We're only building a country the size of Belgium. That's exactly what it is. 26,500 square kilometers of land. That is perhaps 5 to 7 times bigger than Dubai. I think Dubai is 4,000 square kilometers, I could be wrong, probably 20 times compared to Bahrain. And there are multiple areas which we have zoned out in Neom, each of them a destination the size of Manhattan. So the size, scale, and scope of what we have at hand is magnificent, and I guess by definition the most ambitious project on the face of this earth, which is what makes it so exciting. Now, our vision is clear, and this is important. Our vision is to be the land of the future, the world of tomorrow, where the greatest minds and the best talents are empowered to pioneer ideas and exceed boundaries in a world which is inspired by imagination. There is nothing to stop you except the imagination. Like I said, you have a lot of mega projects in the kingdom and many other parts of the world, but it's a very rare occasion that political will comes together with financial backing to really create a blueprint for the next generation. And that is what we have with Neom. We, as you know, are backed by $500 billion of capital by the Public Investment Fund, which is the sovereign wealth arm of the kingdom. And we have 16 economic sectors which are being created or carved out, each of them the size of a ministry in a normal environment. And I will go through with you in terms of what those sectors are. We are actually ahead of the game. We were only initially hoping to go live in 2025, but you heard the flights did operate in December 2018. There are now 2 weekly flights which take you to Neom, and we are hoping to start as we speak with the first part of construction, which is the housing for the construction workers. So we will get there, and probably in all likelihood way before 2025. The rate at which we are going, probably we're looking at 2020. I have spoken to you about the location. I think also from a geopolitical point of view, it is fascinating that not only is Neom probably at the core of all ancient civilizations. So if you pan out the whole world map and you look at all the key ancient civilizations, this is actually where it all began, and it's absolutely fascinating from a historic point of view. And the fact that the location is probably less than 7 hours of flight from 2/3 of the world makes us an ideal destination like one could not imagine 5 years ago. Sustainability and community, and I will talk you through this. If I don't have any slide, and if I had just one key message to speak of, it would be this. Neom is founded perhaps on 5 key guiding principles, and all of them are equally important to us. Number 1, it will be a global destination, meaning this is not just a Riyadh play, this is not just for the kingdom, this is not just for the GCC market. We will be a global destination where the best in the world would come, because that is what they aspire to, be the best in the world. So that's number 1, we will be a global destination. And number 2, given what you've seen in the videos, at every given opportunity, we will leverage our natural assets. Because guess what? Those of you who are Saudi in the room would agree with me. These natural assets and the beauty of this has been lost on its own citizens so far. People haven't explored the Red Sea area. Many of you have traveled everywhere in the world, but not seen what is there in the Red Sea. And that is what Neom will change. Number 3, which is the whole pillar of sustainability. Sustainability will be key to everything that we do at Neom. And that is making a transition from saying, oh, we're just going to talk about preventing damage or conservation. No, we're going to talk about enhancing the environment. Less bad is not good enough. We want to talk a language of more good. So whatever we do at Neom, we want to ensure that we will leave the environment better than we found it. Number 4 is the fact that it would be a region, a zone, an area where you would experience the future. Neom was conceived as the world of tomorrow and as a land of future, and that means you would have technology no matter where you are, no matter which sector you're interacting with. Technology and the world of tomorrow would be interwoven with everything that you have at Neom. And number 5 is what probably is most important for this audience. If we have to be the land of the future, what we need is a solid ecosystem, which is the startup community, which is the educational institutions, because like we said, the world around us is accelerating at such a fast pace that what is innovative today might not be in 2 years' time, 5 years' time. So we need the startups to have their headquarters in Neom and be there, so you're constantly reinventing the future and the land of tomorrow. I guess the way to explain it is, these are the 16 sectors that you have, as you can see. Everything from energy, water, mobility, to food, manufacturing, media, tourism, which is what I look at, sport, entertainment, culture, heritage, education, and livability. And I think livability is also very important, because if I look at the most promising destinations in the world, they're not just great because of the diverse landscapes or what they have. They're great because it's a wonderful place to live. So we don't want Neom to be just a place where you visit and you leave. That's not the idea. We want Neom to be a place where you want to live, because it's at the cutting edge of technology, because it's going to be the land of tomorrow. And as an ambitious, creative mind, you think it is the best place for you to be based, your company and idea to be based, to unleash that creativity. I will just take one more minute or 60 seconds with the last slide, which is what I feel most passionately about, which is tourism. And at tourism, it was very important for us to come up with a value proposition for tourism, which is distinctly Neom. And that value proposition is that we are going to reimagine the future of travel and be the only place in the world where you can experience tourism of the future. Thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much.